Today we are gathered around to discuss this new Nicki and Ebro interview for Apple Music. Welcome back to the channel. Please like this video and subscribe with the notification bell on so that you are notified every single time I upload a new video. Today we're on the bArBoLoGiE playlist. I'm going to save my critique and I'm also going to compare this interview to the Joe Budden interview that recently came out, but I will leave that for the end of this video. So make sure that you guys watch until the end so that you can learn everything that I learned. Okay, let's get into this tea. Let's start off with Nicki's reflection on Needle, the song Needle featuring Drake on Pink Friday 2, and she talks about how this song was originally meant for Drake's album For All the Dogs, and he felt like it sonically did not match with the sound of his album. And so Nicki said she first heard the song while she was in Trinidad for Carnival back in February 2023. That was around the time where she released Red Ruby the Sleeve. See, this is the thing when it comes to Nicki's catalog. I don't need her to tell me what the best is. I want to make that decision for myself. And so she's bigging up this collab like, oh, this is the best Tricky collab ever. And it's just like, girl, no. There is Up All Night. There is Make Me Proud, which is my favorite. If y'all are religious watchers to my channel, y'all know my favorite Tricky collab. And it's just like, I love Needle, don't get me wrong. I hated it at first, but now I absolutely love it. But it is not their best song. It is not their best collab. And I can understand that Nicki wanted to go with a different vibe with Drake, a more chill vibe, a singy vibe, and that's totally fine. But both of them are rappers. I don't come to Drake or Nicki to hear them sing. Their singing is fine. I ain't got a problem with it. But if I hear Drake and Nicki are on a song together, I want some hard bars, and that's what we did not get. But hey, it's okay. I'm totally over it, which is why I even love the song. She says FTCU wasn't meant to be a single, and she purposely did not put videos out for her albums because she really wants people to focus on the music. And it's so crazy how people speculated that this album, Pink Friday 2, would be a visual album, but it's like Nicki has such a disdain for music videos and how music videos have watered down the culture of hip-hop, specifically female rap, and you can tell that that's just not where her mind is right now. It seems like the biggest questions that I have for Nicki will go remaining unanswered because Ebro asked her, does she feel appreciated by hip-hop? And she says she feels appreciated by her fans. There's no doubt about that. But when it came to answering the question regarding hip-hop, she basically said no without saying no. As you guys know, 2023 was the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, and there were celebrations across the industry at the Grammys, BET Awards, VMAs, which Nicki participated in that tribute. But for most of those ceremonies, Nicki was not a part of it. They didn't ask her to be a part of it, or she just wasn't a part of it for whatever reason. And so you can say that Nicki was left out of the 50th anniversary of hip-hop celebration, which is a travesty because she is a titan in the game and the most consistent female rapper to ever walk earth, and Ebro said it in this interview, and that's something that's not even debated. So I understand how Nicki feels regarding how hip-hop regards her and treats her, and I want to hear, you know, her honest answer on that. My question is like, when would be the appropriate time to address that question? Because I feel like if it's done on her own platform, like if she goes live or if she goes live on Station Head, like it could be taken as, first of all, people who don't keep up with Nicki won't hear that information. And then if it is posted on other platforms, it'll come off as if Nicki is kind of ranting. So I actually thought that this would be the perfect time to address those feelings in a sit down at Apple Music, which is an institutionalized industry platform, right, where everybody will be looking at this industry wide. And so I think it is the best way for Nicki to sit down and get her thoughts out with someone like Ebro, because it's just like, you know, that people are actually going to pay attention and actually try to understand Nicki's point of view. I've talked to several people who have a better understanding of Nicki because of her recent interviews, and I would just love for that point to be understood by the masses and by hip-hop. If you're still listening, please like this video because we have so much more to get into. As always, Nicki speaks on the status quo in hip-hop and female rap, and she says hype and whackness happens both in male and female hip-hop, but when I speak on it, I look bitter. But y'all don't want to hear the truth, though, because y'all know that y'all don't belong here. And it's like Nicki makes it clear that when she expresses her sentiment on the current state of hip-hop, it's not only on female rappers. She talks about having respect for female rappers and personal relationships for the girls that she likes, and she told the short story about like when she had writer's block, Drake sent sent her seeing green. She got it done. She says, I got it done. I pushed myself. I knew I was going to send him a verse that he was going to love. She said, it's about sacrifice because I want to be the best. And why isn't that trade-off not in music anymore? Nicki has a respect for hip-hop that no one has anymore. And the fact that she has to constantly explain in every interview her philosophy on that and why the status quo of hip-hop is in the gutter, it speaks to the lack of passion and understanding and respect that everybody has in hip-hop. Fans, industry personnel, executives, and artists alike. It's not just the artists, because the executives control who has the power artist-wise. It explains why this passion is no longer. Nicki actually used to use a laptop. Ebro recalled this as he witnessed her working in the studio back in the day, but she says she doesn't use a laptop anymore. She starts making songs, laying references. As we know, she likes to do the melody, only her engineer in the studio with her. She also bigs up Tate Cobain, Grammy-winning producer and songwriter, and an artist who is signed to her label Heavy on It, for the magic that he brings to so many of the songs that Nicki has done in the most recent years. She also bigs up ATO Jacob, who had a lot to do with the production on this album on songs like Falling For You, FTCU, and maybe Let Me Calm Down. I could be wrong about that, but make sure that you guys check the credits. She talks about the drums on his beats, which is a hit or miss for me personally. She said, I used to take beats where people would send hooks and verses, but I don't want to do that anymore because people act like they're auditioning to get a feature from Nicki Minaj, and she just wants to really be inspired by great beats, and I love that. I love that a lot. Now, here is the controversy. Ebro asked Nicki, basically, like, here's a critique that a lot of people have about Nicki, which is she's always in some beef and some controversy and always into it or falling out with someone in the industry. I kind of thought that this was a fair question when he brought it up, because if you're on the outside looking in, I could understand why you would have that critique of Nicki, and I would just love for her to address it in her own words. And so she basically said, like, oh, and where is that question coming from? Are they here in the room? And basically Ebro was like, no, and she was like, I don't talk to the internet, so we can move on. And then he proceeded to ask about Cowgirl. Now, I also thought that this was shade to Ebro's co-host on his show, Nadeska, who always has something negative to say about Nicki's music, and she had a very negative review on Red Ruby the Sleaze, released in early 2023, because Nicki was throwing shots at Megan Thee Stallion. And I really feel like if Nadeska and Nicki were to come together to have a conversation, just a calm conversation, not a back and forth, about their different ideals in hip-hop, I believe that Nadeska has a lot to learn when it comes to someone like Nicki, who has a very strong philosophy when it comes to hip-hop and how she navigates the field. Along with politics, beef, and interpersonal conflict between herself and other rappers. Y'all want to hear my critique now? If you're still here, make sure you please like this video, okay? My critique is pretty positive. I think the energy of this interview was very light. It accomplished everything that the Joe Budden interview did in less than half the time. This interview was about 39 minutes. The Joe Budden interview was about an hour and 14 minutes. I really thought Joe's interview would have been better in comparison to Ebro's, but that vibe of the Joe Budden interview was a little bit too serious to not have covered more topics other than music. Ebro did the same thing, but more in a lighthearted fashion. And I think that it may have a lot had to do with the set. Ebro's set on Apple Music seems more high energy and vibrant, whereas the set Joe Budden had was like just a more serious type of vibe. I want a serious sit down where when Nicki is ready to bust it wide open for the world, pause, because y'all know what I mean. I want to hear those responses to critiques, right? I want to hear how Nicki feels treated in hip hop. Once again, I think Nicki could benefit from bringing her collaborators of engineers and producers in the room to discuss the role they play in the music that they make and how much of a legend Nicki Minaj truly is when it comes to writing songs and arranging. I just want to hear it from another perspective, and I think that it would allow for more well-rounded conversations. You could say Nicki does these interviews for her fans, for her stans. If you're really following along, you are hearing Nicki talk about the album very frequently and all these songs and the backstories. And so in order to keep us entertained and tell me something new that I didn't hear before, I think that bringing in other people who are a part of her process would be so amazing, because it would just make her even more of a legend in our eyes. But that's all I had for Ebro. Well done, Ebro. I think you did a great job. I really do hope that down the line in this era, Nicki does give us a more serious sit down where she talks about the businesses that she has in store, her record label, and everything else in life, and her philosophy on hip hop, because that is where I am. I want to hear more real and deeper conversations. Let me know if you disagree or agree with any points that I made in this video. I'm so anxious for your feedback. I am officially on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and it would mean a lot if you would subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you do not miss another upload when I talk about Nicki Minaj or female rappers. Thank y'all so much for listening until the end, and if you did, type ebro/Nicki or Nicki in the comments so that I know who the real ones are.